Okay, Henry. Yeah, we're live. We're live on Facebook. So thank you very much, and it's lovely to see you, Henry. If people watching this have not bumped into you on the music scene before, can you just sort of explain to the people maybe watching or listening to this later on, what you do, Henry? What is it that you do?
As far as the business or as far
Yeah,
as
so
musically?
this is an interesting one because you're like a perfect guest for me because I like to talk to musicians and like business as well is what I was interested in,
Okay.
and you tick all the boxes of this, and I know that I spoke to you before on because you've depped for my band a few times, and we've spoken before about your very interesting career in music, like so I think people will enjoy all of that story a bit later on today. So I suppose do you want to talk just about your band and your shop? I suppose that's your main focus, is it, at the moment?
Yeah, well, let's say the present, so to
Yeah.
speak. So presently,
Yeah.
I am a guitarist and vocalist for a three-piece classic rock covers band called El Toro, which we've been going for about 10 years now.
Can I
And
ask you something on that, Henry? Just quickly, but just butt in. Um,
yeah,
where does that name come from? I've always wanted to ask you.
that's a funny story as well because back in the day, I used to when I lived in Bath, I used to host an open mic night at a place called O'Neill's.
Hmm.
You might remember that, and many people might remember that. It was quite a good live music night spot with a nice big stage upstairs. And I used to host a kind of a band open mic night, and a lot of musicians would come and just set up. There was a drum kit and everything, and we had a couple of guys who would turn up regularly, and I would join in. So we had a Martin James, a local drum teacher, would come up and play the drums, and a new guy in town called Tim Page, who sadly is no longer with us. He passed from cancer a few years ago. But these guys would turn up regularly, and we kind of connected, and we would just jam. And from that, we were asked to play at someone's birthday party. Only we didn't have a name, we didn't have any songs. We would just jam on things like it was very Santana because naturally my heritage, which is half Chiricahua, Apache Indian, and half Mexican. Um, I was really into the kind of slash between Black Crows and Santana, just jamming and trying to put a Spanish spin on any jam that I did just for fun. So we got asked to play this private party, and we didn't really know any covers, so we thought we'd just jam it through. And I thought, well, we could come up with a nice Santana-ish name, which turned out to be El Toro, which means the bull in Spanish.
Ah, okay.
It was just on the fly kind of thing. But when we played that, a lot of people were shouting out covers. And turns out we knew quite a bit of covers between us, so we just kind of jammed through that. And so out of that, we got asked to play a few more private functions and a couple of pubs. So it just kind of stemmed from there. We ended up thinking, okay, well, we've got a few gigs lined up now. We need to learn some songs, come up with a full set, maybe get some lights and a PA, and think about doing this regularly. And
That's
it turned
really,
out we've been working steady every weekend pretty much ever since.
I was gonna say that's a really cool organic way of a band coming together. Like that's really cool. Like you obviously got together, you were working at doing the night at O'Neill's, and then it sort of, from there. When you did the nights at O'Neill's, were you sort of, was the plan to put a band together, or did that just sort of happen? Um,
Never, never.
no.
I'm going back a bit further when I did music professionally and was touring around the world and traveling to different places through music. After I'd settled in Bath, the idea was to start a new chapter in life because I'd been playing professionally since the age of 17. And by the time I was 30, I felt like I was about 80 years old, with the lifestyle. So the plan was to settle down with my British wife and start a new chapter, not do music, but get a day job, raise a family, and you know, figure out how the other half lived
Yeah.
and live that kind of life, out of music. But weirdly enough, during the job that I found, the boss kind of took us all to not an open mic, a karaoke night one night. And although I refused to sing, I hadn't told anybody about my musical background. he promised me a bottle of wine, which seemed like a good idea at the time after a couple of beers. Just everybody was singing. So just sing one song and I'll give you a bottle of wine. So I went up, I did Me and Mrs. Jones, a cover, and as soon as I walked off the stage, he just pulled me aside and said, "You are singing at my pub, and we're gonna get you booked in. And do you play guitar?" I was like, "Well, a little bit." And
Yeah.
it all stemmed from there. I just, rather than learn a bunch of songs and play a gig, I thought, well, I'll just host an open mic night and get other people to come up and play. And I only have to sing maybe one or two songs.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's
Seemed the
really
easy way to do it, but
That's really cool. I mean, I'd like to go back to a bit of that story there because you, as I said, you had previous success, didn't you? Before, like, this obviously the open mic night and stuff. You had previous success with another band, didn't you? Is that correct? You
I
sort
wouldn't say success as such. We had the
okay,
opportunity
okay,
for success because, as I said, it started playing professionally at the age of 17, and when you start that young, you have an opportunity to move up the ranks. I started playing guitar when I was 10, but by the time I was 17, I'd been pretty good at guitar. But there was a local band that was kind of a function slash touring band, who traveled all across the west coast of the UK, USA, sorry, Midwest. But their bass player quit, and it seemed I was the only one that they really liked as a person, that of all the musicians that they knew, um, that would have been available to go and join the band. But uh, the point was I had to learn how to play bass. So I joined their band as a bass player. I bought a bass. I learned how to play it, and then just moved up the ranks. So I did that band for a couple of years, and then I was poached to join another band, which was a bit higher up the ranks, and then it just moved up from there, and I moved up the ranks as a bass player, slash backing vocalist, to some of the best bands in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the time, and I got to play with the most incredible musicians who'd done more things than I could ever dream of. But it turned out to be a really lucrative living, and I really enjoyed it. Come to now, I was 26, and I had started my own band. I picked up a Coors Light sponsorship. For breweries, to have a brewery sponsorship was a big thing,
yes,
in that era. So we really enjoyed that. And after about a couple of years of that, as things just kind of change and evolve with bands and music, I got an opportunity to write some songs with another guitarist in Albuquerque. We sent that tape off to an advert in a magazine that was looking for a project to be sponsored by a Japanese record company. We got called into an audition in Los Angeles. And a few weeks later, I got the call back and he didn't. So it was a bit
wow,
of an
okay,
awkward situation there. But because we wrote the songs together, they decided to take him along as well. Um, and that was great. It was a great experience. Got to live in Japan for a year. Got to record. They sent us to record a record at Peter Gabriel's studio in Vox, Real World Studio,
yeah,
where I met some incredibly famous people who I had no idea who they were because I was American. And so rubbing elbows with the likes of Kylie Minogue and the Stereophonics, and Sinead O'Connor, and bands like Therapy, and um, just others that I just, were quite high in the ranks in the UK, so to speak. And then later finding out just how famous they were and thinking, oh my God.
wow. Because
Um,
there's a few stories you've told me when I've been out and about. Like, I think you met Slash, didn't you, at one point as well, the guitar Slash?
Not only met him, we partied with him and a couple of members of his band, until from about, I guess, midnight-ish to about 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
That was probably the highlight of my career,
I,
so to speak.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
He seems such a humble guy. I've never met Slash, but I think like he's one of my idols, and I think that they say never meet your idols, but with Slash, I think he seems such a humble guy anyway. In any interviews I've watched of him, he seems
yeah.
such a nice, down to earth guy. Doesn't seem any different Really, apart from on stage, his persona with his top hat and his hair and his eyes and his aviator glasses, I don't know. You must know more than me, but he seems like quite a down to earth, genuine guy, really.
He was, and he's kept that persona and that image. He's not one of those guys who dresses the part on stage and then goes home and puts his dry robe on and his slippers and sits in front of the telly. He is Slash. That's
Yes.
him,
Yeah.
on and off screen, on and off the stage. He is that persona. That what you see is what you get
Yeah.
with him. But he is. You can tell that he's made an effort to try and deal with his success and his fame the best way possible.
Yeah.
And no doubt he's been through the ringer as well. He's not had an easy life before they got famous, and when they actually started hitting big, it got even tougher because he then had to maintain your sanity in order to keep going. And bless him, he's still going.
Yeah.
He's got various projects going on, Slash the Snake Pit, and various other things. And it was Snake Pit that was on tour in Japan when I met him. And they just finished a gig. We had just finished rehearsal. I was out with some friends at a club who happened to be female and Polish. And we just sat there in the back room minding our own business. My male friends had left. So it was, if you can imagine, just me with my long hair looking a bit like Slash, total poodle rock days, sat amongst about 6 or 7 beautiful Polish women. So naturally, that in itself draws attention. But when he walks in with his band, he went straight to me and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, introduce me to some of your women."
Oh, wow.
It's Slash. So naturally, all of us were just like, "Well, yeah, of course, we're not going to say no." So yeah, that's how it all started, and it was just amazing. He sat next to me, and we chatted the whole time. He chatted with the women, and everyone was just lovely. And he bought our drinks all night. I would go with him to the bar to bring rounds back, and we ended up, after everyone left, he and I closed the bar, sat up against the bar, drinking one for the road, and signing autographs. So people must have thought that I was with his band. So I was stood next to him, signing everything from, checkbook receipts to, parking tickets and T-shirts and skin.
Wow.
And it was great. I don't think he'll ever remember that, but from
I'm,
time to time,
I'm
I
sure he
do.
does. I'm sure he does.
Well, I still, to this day, Richard, I'm trolling the internet trying to find a photo because so many photos were taken
Yes.
of us together that night, apart from people I knew didn't take any photos of us together. So I still troll the internet, try to find a photo of us together in Fukuoka at that
So,
club.
so if anyone watching this was there on that night taking photos, please submit a photo back to you.
Please, because as you can imagine, there are still a few people who don't believe that story.
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah.
I need the photographic evidence so I can go, see, yes, it did happen.
Oh, what an amazing story that is. That's incredible, isn't it?
That was great. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
So from there, Henry, from meeting Slash and being over in LA and things like that, and then in Japan, when did you sort of decide you were coming back to the UK? Did you stay in America for a bit, or did you come straight back to the UK, or what was how did you end up back in the UK?
I did well during the time that we were recording the record at Real World Studios. I met someone, so we kind of kept in touch. We kind of knew that it was just a bit of a fling kind of thing.
Mhm.
But we kind of kept in touch and kept it going whilst I was on a promotional tour and going back and forth to Japan and Hong Kong and Korea and all these different places. When I ended up going back to the States, it was one of those kind of things, Rich, where you're sat on the phone for 6 hours a night going, okay, and what are we going to do with this?
Mhm.
And then got the phone bill a month later and, over £1,000 in phone bill. Well, we should either break up or, one of us and make the next move and try and make a life of it. So that's what we did. And I decided to come to the UK and start a new life with her. and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah.
There's a
Oh,
lot of personal stuff in between there, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So that marriage lasted, I think, 4 years from London. Slowly drifted apart, but before I moved back to the States, after that kind of didn't work out, I kind of met someone else, and then you know, yeah, and then the rest is history.
yeah.
So
That's
now I've got beautiful kids and a lovely family, and kind of a dream job, which is
yeah,
great.
because we'll talk about that now as well. But you've got is it 3 kids you've got, Henry? Or is it 2 kids?
Now I've got a 12-year-old, sorry, a 13-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy
Hmm.
and a 12-year-old stepdaughter.
Oh wow, okay, and a couple of dogs as well, is that right?
Three dogs
Three
and a
dogs.
cat. And a tap cat, mind you. Unfortunately, the cat only attacks us,
Oh,
but it's fun.
does the cat get on with the dogs or?
Yeah, yeah, fine,
Ah,
fine.
that's cool. But yeah. So coming back, so you're back in the UK because I know I think you're working as an IT sort of chap, weren't you, at one point? Is that correct? Like you were working in sort of IT?
It's kind of technology, so to speak. So it was end-to-end supply chain solutions is what I got into as an account manager and sales exec. So this company, so it was sales oriented, but also customer service oriented. But it was also all of the technology centered around supply chains for retail companies. So I was helping retail businesses streamline their warehousing and distribution um, processes, and streamline their production processes, how they manage their inventory, how that inventory is then tracked throughout the supply chain stage. So, what they get from their suppliers to their warehouse, how it's tracked and managed, and then how it gets out to the customer every step of the way, supplying hardware, software solutions as well to kind of manage that better. But also within the store, so the retail point of sale hardware and software, tills, screens, display units, that kind of thing. So that kind of gave me the understanding and the expertise of how retail operations work,
Yes.
especially in the digital age, whereas you have to have an online presence and have the e-commerce side
Hmm.
solidly established before you can have a bricks and mortar shop. So having that understanding just kind of gave me um, not the idea, but the experience that helped when I decided to start my own business in retail. Plus the musical background, and naturally it had to be music instruments and guitars and everything, which I love and became obsessed with at a young age. So
Well, let's talk about that now because that is really cool. I mean, this where you're sat now, you're sat in your shop called El Toro Music, isn't that right?
yes,
Yeah. We can
it's,
tell, we can see the string display, which looks amazing behind you there. I'll have a packet of Ernie balls, please.
thanks.
And
I'll put it in the post for you.
thank you very much. But yeah, so I've been to your shop and it is really, you've done a really great job of it. It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
It's in from memory, it's in Chippenham sort of area, isn't it? Is that the localist area? Would you say closest area to there?
Yeah, so just off the M4 junction 17.
Yeah.
So kind of on your way into Chippenham. So it's close enough to Chippenham, where I serve the Chippenham and surrounding area, but it's also close enough to the M4 that I get customers from Bristol and Swindon as well.
Yes. But I mean, I've visited and it is an amazing place, and I haven't been for a while,
Very much.
and I'm sure it's changed massively. So I'm sure it's even better than it
Not
was when
much.
I first visited. So, but
It's
if
more messy.
if people are popping through though, it's definitely worth a visit. It's got some you've got some really nice sort of equipment and gear there as well. But yeah, even if online, if you're sort of looking, you live too far away, definitely check out your online shop, isn't it? So
Yes, eltoromusic.co.uk.
fantastic. That's cool. I mean, are you on a laptop, Henry? I was going to say you could maybe give us a little tour, but you might be on a laptop. It might not be
I
easy for you
am.
to do that.
Well,
But
I would, but at the moment, I've just done a box clear out of guitar
okay.
boxes. So I've got about 2 dozen guitar boxes thrown around.
Oh wow.
But you can see that is just, it's a bit of a small place, but I tend to have most of what everybody needs. I also do a lot of special orders for stuff that I can't fit in the shop.
Well, you got me the I don't know if you remember a while back. You got me some lights and stuff that I was looking for. Is it Chavez? I think it was
Yes.
lights. And I contacted you and said, "Can you get all of these?" And you said, "Yeah, I can get those, no problem at all." So,
Yeah.
if anyone wants anything that you haven't got in stock, maybe in your shop, but you deal with them, the manufacturers, you deal with whoever it may be, you can get it, can't you? That's the thing. So,
Absolutely, and it's a good job to become a customer. It's a good shout because once you're a regular customer, you're eligible for discounts, and I call them VIP discounts.
oh, nice.
So any local musician who shops with me automatically will get either free shipping or a discount on anything that they order. So it pays to help out a local business like myself if you're
Yes.
local.
Yeah, no, of course. So, where did this idea come from? Was this idea already planted in your mind? Because obviously, your experience in, as you were saying, with dealing with like, do they call it EPOS, like systems, like
Yeah,
yeah, so those sort of systems in that. So your experience with that obviously is helped massively with you setting up this business. But
yeah.
was this always in your mind back then when you were back in like LA and stuff? Did you always have in your mind that I'm going to open a music shop one day, or was this, or I'm going to open a shop, or not? Was that not completely something new?
Um, I guess, any musician who's just starting out, when you first learn how to play guitar and everything, and you spend a lot of time in your local guitar shop or your local music store, you know, it's something that everybody wants to do as a sideline, isn't it?
Yep.
That'd be like your dream job. If you had to have a side job apart from being a musician, it would be in a guitar shop, working,
Yes.
or in a lot of instances, musicians think that working in a guitar shop is just, sitting around playing guitar all day, and then selling a guitar if someone wants something. But it is far from that. I actually worked in a guitar shop, in my local guitar shop, in a tiny place called Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I grew up. And it was incredible, just learning mainly about customer service,
Yes.
because it wasn't about how much I knew about guitars or how much I knew about sales or upselling or keeping the customer happy or anything like that. It was all about customer service. And if a customer likes you, they will come back.
Hmm.
So regardless of how much you know about something, they just have to feel good being there and feel welcomed. And that's what I learned back then. So what I gained over the years is, in working in sales and customer service, was, that there's this old myth that the customer's always right. And the most important thing that I've learned is that that is wrong.
Yeah.
The customer isn't always right. That's not true, but they do have to be happy.
Yes.
So, and a perfect example is, I've had people coming in saying, I want this certain thing. And then I say, okay, I don't just go and give it to them. I ask why. Why do you want this? What is it for? What's your goal in achieving this? Do you want to start a band?
Hmm.
Do you want to just play around at home? Do you want to just have something to pick up when you're bored every now and then? Or are you serious? Are you recording? That kind of thing. And then what they want starts to shift, and you can see their eyes light up, and then start to get excited about things. They're like, yeah, yeah, I didn't think of that. So yeah, I want to record. So okay, try this, because this is good for recording. This is good for this and that. Whatever they want to do, it's always good to ask questions. And 9 times out of 10, people end up walking out with something much better than what they wanted in the first place, or what they had in mind,
Yes.
and being extremely happy. So
And that's an
yeah,
amazing experience as a customer, though, because like I've been to music shops where in the past, I'm not naming any names, but I've been to music shops where you don't get that, and you walk in and you say, "I think I want that guitar on the wall there," and they just go, "Yeah, here you go. Do you want to try it? Sit down with it. I'll give you 10 minutes. I'll come back in 10 minutes." And then you're like, "Yeah, I do like it. Okay, cool. Do you want it? Yeah, yeah, I'll have that one. Yeah." And then you walk away, and then you're like, "Actually, I don't really want this." When you get home, you're like, "I didn't really want this one. Maybe I've got the wrong thing," or
yeah,
I've had experiences like that in the past in other music shops. So it's great that you actually dig a bit deeper into why the person coming into the shop wants that item, and what they want it for, and because they might think they got the right item, but they, as you said, they may not. By the end of it, end of the journey, they might be like, actually, I've walked out with something completely different,
yeah,
but much better than what I was looking for in the first place. So, um,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. So that's great customer service. But just if anyone is watching, because there are a few people watching this, like feel free to comment away. Like if anyone has any questions for Henry, because Henry's had a diverse and amazing career. We've only just scratched the surface because I want to talk to you about BIM and things like that. Because I know you were you worked at BIM at one point, which is
Yeah.
the Institute of Modern Music. I want to talk a bit more about your band as well because we've just brushed upon that. And as you know, like I think you're one of the best rock vocalists on the circuit. Like honestly, I love your vocals. I've said it many times, and not only that, you play great guitar. You play bass as well. You stood in for us on a couple of gigs and did bass, and that was great fun. So you're a talented musician, but your voice is such a unique voice. It's very sort of I don't know what the word is, but very sort of it's a rock voice, and it's what I
Gravelly.
really gravelly. Yes, yeah. So if anyone hasn't heard, I'm gonna come back to that. We'll talk a little bit more about El Toro music, and then we'll come back to the band. I think. So I said we obviously want people to come in and visit your shop because they are going to get a unique experience, and it is you, isn't it? There's no one else you're working with. I'm sure you got other people that work for you, maybe on weekends and stuff, and cover the shop and that. But it is your business, isn't it, all by yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it started off an idea for the family to get involved in, and it was pegged as a family business. But once I got it opened, I found that none of the family wanted to help to come and paint or clean or set stuff up or tear down boxes or so yeah, it has been me
Yeah.
for the most part. But if you look at our YouTube channel, you'll see my son is now started to get involved in some of the demo videos and promo videos, and he really loves that. He's a
I
bit of a
saw a video of
wannabe.
him playing the drums, and I
Yeah.
was pretty impressed. There was a video I think went up on Facebook, of him playing the drums. Is that right? And I was pretty blown away. Like I don't think he'd had any lessons or something, and he just put a
No,
video.
he completely
Um,
taught himself watching YouTube videos and becoming obsessed with Queen and Roger Taylor. So he wanted to get an acoustic kit, which I didn't really want in here because number one, um, the floor in here we're on it's a second floor or the first floor. Anyway, it vibrates whenever you hit the kick drum, and I learned that by doing live streams during lockdown. Every time I got a band in here, and the drums started going, the whole building would shake. Um, so I didn't really want that, but he was obsessed, and he promised that he would clean his room for a month and do what he was told for a month. So I thought, silly, he'll never do it. But yeah, I'll get you an acoustic drum kit. You can have it in my shop and play it whatever you want, as long as you do that for a month. And of course, he just went and did it. So I was obliged to buy him an acoustic drum kit. So
wow,
he's taught himself. I taught him the basics, and he's just gone from there, and he loves it.
well, that's
Absolutely
amazing.
loves it.
Watch this space then. So how old is he now? You say is he
9.
9? Okay, wow.
Yeah,
So yeah, let's give it a few years and let's see where he goes. But that's really exciting, isn't it?
definitely. Well, he's doing piano lessons now, so you should hear him on piano. He's 3 times as good on piano as he is on drums.
Wow.
Again,
Wow.
self-taught.
Yeah.
When he was younger, I tried to encourage him to learn guitar or just play around with something, but as well as well, you'll find out
I'll
soon
find
enough
out soon. Yeah.
that if you encourage them to do anything, it's the last thing they're going to want to do.
Yeah.
So I would just leave instruments out, piano, toy piano, sat in the side, never said anything, and eventually he would pick it up and start discovering that, oh, this makes a funny sound. So, oh, there's drums as well. Check it out. Oh, effects, and it just went from there, and just sparked his interest, and
Has he
just
watched you at a
yeah,
gig, Henry? Has he been
doing
to
it.
a gig and watched you play or anything? Because that might help as well. Like,
He has. For the
yeah.
first time last summer, he came to a gig.
Okay.
It was an outdoor gig, so he was able to come with his mum.
Could you
And
see in his eyes then that there was sort of that interest there? Like,
yes,
mm.
so immediately after we finished, he came right up to the stage, reached out his arms, and said, "God, you're a great drummer!" to our drummer. There
That's
was no,
amazing.
yeah, there was no, "Daddy, it was
No.
great," anything like that. No, it was like, "Can I play your drums?" So
Wow.
yeah, bless
That's
him.
that's amazing. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
he loved it.
So yeah, I mean, let's go. I think next, let's go back a little bit to the band. So obviously, your band, and you play pretty much like me, I suppose, on the circuit as well, quite a bit, don't you? Sort of around in and
Yeah.
around Bristol, Bath. I don't think is O'Neill's there anymore because you were saying about O'Neill's before. Is that still there now? I thought that's gone now, isn't it?
It is. It's called something else. I can't remember what it's called now, but they don't have live music. So live music has kind of been phased out of the center of Bath because of residents moving in.
Yep.
You know, and they always complain about music. So there's not much apart from acoustic music going on now, in pubs anyway.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It has changed, and I've noticed that as well on the circuit. And even now, like recently, with things in, everyone going on about inflation and all this sort of stuff. Are
yeah,
you noticing, Henry? Because I'm noticing, and the band is noticing that the gigs now is more like solo artists or duos. They're cutting back the entertainment to maybe have a DJ now once a month, or if they have a band, it's once a month. They're not having it every weekend. Are
yeah.
you noticing similar things, like patterns and things that seem to be happening at the moment?
Absolutely. There's a lot of a handful of pubs that we used to play just because it was so fun, you know, to play there, and good crowd, good landlords and everything. They treated us well, so it was just fantastic fun. Are now kind of uncertain, so there's a lot of uncertainty
Hmm.
as to whether or not they'll still be able to pay the electric bill or utilities in the next year. So there's no real commitment in advance as to how many bands they can book in for the year, that kind of thing. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot more solo acoustic gigs sprouting up, as well as people singing to backing tracks.
Yes.
Quite interesting. I'm seeing more and more of that, and you know that's great. I mean, I personally enjoy a band more as a spectator, I
Yep.
guess,
Yep.
or as a punter myself. I like watching a live band, but it's also as a performer, it's led me to kind of think, well, maybe I should go out and sing to backing tracks. It'd be a lot easier. You just, you know, just rock up with a guitar and a mic, and that's it, rather than take an hour to set up a whole band and then you know, play for 2 hours, and then you know, another hour tearing down, you know, for, you know, 60 odd quid, whatever it is that we're
Yeah.
getting for
Yeah.
the
I mean,
plug.
the price has never, I don't think, ever changed since I was, because I started gigging when I was young. I started gigging when I was about 9. And I remember back then I'll be getting like £50 in my pocket at the end of the night then, which as a
Yeah,
9-year-old, that was a lot of money.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I did very well as a 9-year-old. But then you come to this age now and you think, hang on a minute, I'm still getting like 50, 60 quid at a pub gig. Like the money's never gone up. It's never changed.
Yeah, well, you know as well as I do, some pubs are better than others, but you know, it just depends. Do you want to make £100 and play somewhere that's hard to load into, or you know, you have to wait 3 weeks to get paid, or something like that, or
Yeah.
chase them for payment, or get an easy 60 quid in your pocket, easy setup, easy load in,
Yeah.
great crowd, great atmosphere. You know, so you know there are pros and cons to
Yes.
all of it, but you know, it, I think the important thing is now, and you know this, is just have fun,
Yeah.
have fun, make a bit of money, and keep
That's
doing
it.
it as
That's the
long as
thing. I
you
mean,
can.
as long as you enjoy it, mate, that's what I think. I mean, the moment I stop enjoying, gigging, and that's why we do it, isn't it? For enjoyment.
Yeah,
Like, you're not going to pay many bills on that sort of money. It's not going to last. So we do it for enjoyment. Obviously, I do
exactly.
weddings, and so do you. We do weddings, and that's where sort of
Yeah,
the bigger money comes through. But you do the pub stuff for the fun, and they are the fun gigs most of the time because people in there just had a hard week at work. They want to have a good time on the weekend, and you're there to supply the entertainment. And
yeah,
the things you see at pubs, I'm sure what you've seen as well. With a few people had a few too many drinks, whatever, and the things you see in pubs, it's you don't see that sort of thing every day of the week, do you? So it's quite an interesting thing to do, isn't it?
exactly. Especially when you're peeling people off the stage,
Yes.
who's falling. You know, people on the dance floor falling into the band, or you're like
Yeah.
those magic moments that you think, ah, this is why I do it all. The money helps, but you know, it's those moments of madness that makes it memorable.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that is one of my like, it's because of equipment, as you know, like it's not cheap, is it? And it's one of my sort of pet hates. I mean, I love watching people have a great time, but when they start like falling into your pedal board or knocking drinks into you, chucking drinks everywhere, like,
Yeah,
it is difficult sometimes to not say nothing.
exactly, exactly.
But so let's talk a little bit about BIM because I know that you were not only have you obviously have the shop, you had an amazing career as a performer, but you've also been working in education as well at some point. Where was that along the timeline that we've dealt with so far? Where was the education side of things where you went to BIM?
That came about around 2008 when BIM, as you might know, started off in Brighton,
Yep. Yeah.
and they just opened up the Bristol um, side of the business, I guess, and we're looking for people. And I guess I was just available and maybe suggested to them by someone. Might have been James Hester, who's now head of drums at
Mhm.
BIM in Bristol. So yeah, it was only for a year, so only one term
Okay.
that I got into it, and really enjoyed it. I was the head of foundation degree live performance workshops. We did those at the FECLA.
I was gonna say, have you got a customer?
For this company, UPVC spraying.
Not here, I'm afraid.
I see that board here there.
Sorry, I just had someone come in the shop.
That's okay. No worries. I said you got a customer.
No, I think someone's lost.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not lost. It's UPVC spraying company.
Just down that way.
Just here in front,
Yeah.
yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Just
Look
they
at
just need the directions. Sorry.
That's
So,
all right. Good customer service
yes,
there.
where were we?
We were talking about BIM, how you got into
Oh,
BIM,
yeah.
and yeah.
So yeah, I got to be the head of live performance workshops for the foundation degree, which is an incredible experience, and pre-production vocal tutor as well. So yeah, I found that kind of engagement with students. It was challenging because, as you can imagine, these are all 16-plus-year-olds who some of the time would come in hungover and
Yep.
trying to keep them engaged and learning and following the curriculum was challenging, but and they're teenagers, so it kind of it was being a parent kind of helps with that experience as well, because you're not kind of telling them off, but you're just trying to guide them
Yes.
to show them why this is important, why it's important we do this, and a lot of encouragement, a lot of you see a lot of effort, and you see some people that have extreme amount of potential, and those who you think, oh, they're never going to make it
Mm.
because of their attitude.
Yes.
And then saying that, I mean, years on now, I've seen that there was a couple that I thought would never make it because of their attitude are now extremely successful,
Okay.
and some of the ones who I thought had the most potential are now doing something completely different other than music. So it just shows you can never tell, but the important thing is to just, as my job role was at that time, was just be the guidance. And, it was just incredible. I loved it.
Yeah. So it sounds an amazing experience. I mean, was that? Do you say that was BIM Bristol or BIM Brighton that you were at?
Bristol, where I was.
Bristol. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we must have crossed. I think we must have missed. I can't remember when I went to BIM. To be honest, I got my certificate there, so it says 2012 for BIM Bristol.
Yeah.
That was when I was there.
Yeah. I was 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So I
it
was a
was
bit
the
after
very
that.
first
So
year.
yeah. No, that's cool. And it was it was a great place to visit and a great place to go to.
Yeah.
So
Highly recommended for young musicians if you fancy a career in music and are quite dedicated and passionate about it, then it's definitely worth a try.
yes, yeah, no, I agree. It is definitely a really good place to go. One of my students recently I taught this week has actually got an audition this Saturday. I think it is at BIM. So I was helping him this week in his lesson to make sure he's sort of ready for a few different. They give him a criteria of what he needs to be. He's going to be asked in the interview. So I was just trying to set him up for that and make sure he was okay with it. But
Yeah,
I think he'll do really well. So he's really talented. So I'm sure he'll do very well.
excellent.
But yeah, so yeah, so I mean, Henry, I'm happy to sort of. I said I've taken up quite a bit of your time. I'm happy to sort of round this up and come to, bring it to a bit of a close. But I want people to come and visit your shop because it is an awesome shop, and they do need to come and
Me
visit you.
too.
And you do. It's not just guitar stuff, is it? As well as you do PA. You do PA equipment, so like for singers, you do PAs, mixers,
Yeah, the
lights.
busking amps and
Yeah.
acoustic amps, busking amps, light portable PAs, to mid-size PAs. Yeah, lights, pretty much everything. Whatever anybody needs to do gigs or to learn from, I can get or
Yeah.
I've got.
Yeah, yeah. So, and if anyone wants to support, and I'm sure there's people going to watch this, and there will be people that watch this back and listen to this, they need to go to ltoromusic. Is it .com?
.co.uk.
.co.uk. Okay, ltoromusic.co.uk, and stock up on strings or whatever they may need, and accessories and things like that. you know, you're the guy to help them out with that. So when is your next gig, Henry? When are you next out with the band? Do you know?
Not for a while. I'm thinking end of February. So sorry, 4th of March
Okay.
is the next one.
Is that a public one or is that like a private one?
That is in Swindon at the Rolleston.
Okay.
You've heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've not played there. I've not been there. So
Yeah, it's a good place. We played there a few times. It's just changed ownership, so we're going back on the 4th of March. So if anybody is out in Swindon, yeah, feel free to come and hang out.
if you do
Do
go,
some
you
rock.
will really enjoy yourself because Henry is the guy for rock. If you like your rock music like I do, you know, blues rock. You're the band to go and watch. So yeah, definitely go and check that one out. But Henry, as I said, thank you very much, mate, for your time.
Thank you.
I need to make an
Good to
effort
see
as
you.
well to come up and see you as well. When I get a day off or something, I need to come up and visit your shop again.
Good. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Henry, as I said. And if anyone has any comments or questions, drop them on the thread, and I'm sure Henry will get back as well.
Cheers, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
And yeah, thank you, Rich. Have a good day.
Thank you
We'll
very
see
much.
you soon.
Cheers, Henry.
Bye-bye.